Okay, well, let's begin. My name is Cliff Laney, and I'm a genealogist for the Laney Clan USA. And Blaine asked me to put together this meeting, and I've got a slideshow here. Feel free to interrupt and ask questions anytime during the presentation. Yeah, I want it to be as interactive as possible. So, and my email address and name are down in the lower right-hand corner. And feel free, if you've got any questions, need some research help or whatever it is, feel free to go ahead and shoot me an email and tell me what you'd like, what you need, and I'll get back to you. So start out with, I'd just like to review today's discussion. We're going to go through what the vision statement is with reference to genealogy in the Laney Clan USA. We're going to talk about the Laney Clan Genealogy Database. We're going to talk about content-rich records, or records that maybe aren't so content-rich. Yeah, genealogy website research and how to handle hints are presented by those websites. And then a little bit about newspapers, obituaries, photos, documents, that rich content that we always, as genealogists, are looking for. And then, of course, we have to finish up with a call to action so that we all go away with a little homework.
Good.
So just to review the vision statement. So for the Laney Clan USA, there's a social portion, and then there's a genealogical portion, and we're all folks, so we love to play Laney bingo and things. But as far as genealogy goes, we want to be a resource to people, anybody who wants to trace their Laney roots. We want to be that resource. We want to be able to have the knowledge and the information to assist and help them out. And so we do that by fostering Laney genealogical research, encouraging the sharing of Laney ancestral information, and promoting Laney family history. And when we talk about Laney, there are a number of spelling variations. And so we want to cover all of those because those variations, some may not be biologically linked to us. Others we know definitely are biologically linked. And really, whether we're biologically, cousins, we certainly are all the family of man, and be a member of the Laney Clan USA. You don't have to prove that, oh yes, I'm a descendant of, pick your Laney ancestor. So this is the vision statement. So we do have, as a Laney Clan, a genealogy database, and it's published on ancestry.com, and it's called Laney_Clan_DB for database. And in our genealogy meeting in 2019, I just put up here information about it, some of the statistics of the tree, and then just a little snapshot of what the actual tree looked like when you go on to ancestry.com. And just for grins, I went on a few days ago and I looked at it, and statistically, guess what? We've got 741 new people that have been added to the database. And then we've got some rich content, 94 new photographs added, 9 stories, and a bunch of records. This would be a source record that substantiate the information in the family tree. And so there have been 4,278 new records added. So I think that's great work. That shows that people within the clan are going up to the database, they're using it, and they're contributing to it. So keep up the good work, and yes, finally something good to say about the year 2020. So with regards to 2020, there's from the Goldilocks point of view, 3 ways that we can handle this pandemic. One is the, too hot, and we've seen people do that. The other is too cold. We've seen a lot of people just, fluff it off and say it's all a big hoax. But I would advocate the just right way to handle the pandemic. Order a pizza, sit down in front of your computer and do some genealogy and contribute to the Laney Clan Database.
Clever.
Amazing. Cliff, where did you even find that?
Where did I find that?
Yes, it's so clever.
Yes, I have secret places to look for nice cartoon. All right, continuing on. So when we talk about the Laney Clan Database, that's published on Ancestry, and we also in this presentation, and then anytime I talk about genealogy, I talk about family search as well. We've got these two titans of family history on the web, and what's the difference between them, and do we need both? So let me just go down through Ancestry here. Ancestry is a collection of private family trees, and the owner of that family tree, when they publish it on Ancestry.com, they have total control over it. They can control who sees it, who can contribute to it. It could be totally private and nobody can see it. Or like the Laney Clan Database, it's shared with individuals, and Linda has access and is the owner of the tree, and she can grant people access to that tree where they can actually contribute to it. Ancestry is a for-profit company. So if you want to see the Laney Clan Database on Ancestry, you need to have a subscription, and there is a fee for that. Strengths of Ancestry is it's a huge, huge collection of records. They have census records, they have birth and death records and marriage records and school yearbooks, and you name it, they've got it, and it's huge. Their search capabilities are what I would term best in class. If you're looking for something on Ancestry and you do a search, you don't need to finagle the search parameters very much to find what you're looking for. It's an outstanding research platform based on the huge database of records and the search capabilities. And the trees are isolated. So once you put the stuff up there, unless you grant somebody privileges to contribute to it or alter it, edit it, nobody messes with your stuff. The weaknesses of Ancestry are, guess what? They're isolated trees. And so you don't get collaboration from the universe of users. And then there is a fee, as I mentioned before. Now let's look at Family Search for a minute. Family Search is a single shared global family tree. So you don't have a family tree on Family Search. You have contributions that you've made to this humongous single family tree. Family Search is an international nonprofit organization as opposed to a for-profit company. The strengths of Family Search are that, like Ancestry, there's a huge, huge database of records. So they have, again, census records, marriage, birth certificates, death records, you name it, they've got it. It's a free service. So like some of us where, you're counting your coins, Family Search doesn't charge you anything. It's a nonprofit. It has outstanding publication capability. And since it's a shared single family, global family tree, that means that when you put your stuff up there, other people can contribute to it. And your weaknesses, they can say, oh, yeah, that's all true, but guess what? There's more. And they can say, here's that person's spouse, or there's another child or two that you know about. They can post pictures. I know every family, somebody inherits the photographs for the family. And so whoever has those photographs, guess what? On Family Search, they can put them up there. What are the weaknesses of Family Search? Well, it's a single shared global tree, which means that people can not only do good things to the tree, contribute stuff, can also put in things that really haven't been researched very well, and that can be problematic. And the search capabilities, family search, in my opinion, need some improvements. Sometimes when I'm searching for something, I know it's there. I know that this find a grave record exists, and I know the person's name and their birth date and death year and all the information about it, and yet trying to get it on family search sometimes do some gymnastics. So those are the things. Now, as far as websites for genealogy, there are many, many others. I'm just highlighting these two because they are the titans, if you will. And I'm not advocating the sole use of either one. They both have their strengths and weaknesses. And frankly, as a hobby genealogist, I couldn't survive without both of them. So just as a prelude, that kind of gives you an idea of what we are using. Any questions on that?
Okay, you said this, you have to, did I understand that you have to be a contributor in order to get this started with your family? Is that right?
Actually, no. You can actually subscribe to Ancestry and not create a family tree at all. Just search records. You don't need to contribute anything. You can just look at them. And the same thing with family search. You can go create a login. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to contribute anything. You can just look at what others have put in that global family tree.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
How do you get the subscription?
Yes, how do you get the subscription to Ancestry?
Okay, so if you go and open up your web browser on your computer and go to ancestry.com,
Okay.
yeah, they will say, go ahead and, create a login, and they will, you'll put in a user ID and a password, and they'll need some credit card information, and you will be set and running. Family search, you go, you create a login, it's free, and you're up and running.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and if you need any help with that, again, my email ID is laneysearch@yahoo.com. And so feel free to shoot me an email and I can coach you on it.
Okay.
So let's talk about father, poor father. So some of you will remember there was a book several years ago, a #1 bestseller entitled Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it was financially focused. When I talk about rich forefather and poor forefather, I'm talking about the information about your forebears and how rich it is. So for example, look at these are fictitious. It's not a screenshot of Family Search or Ancestry, but the one in the upper right. So this is a fictitious person called Rich Man Dad. And when you look at it, there's a photograph of him. There's complete biographical information, a full birth date and place, a full death date and place, where he was buried, and then information about his family with pictures, his parents, his spouse, very nice. Versus the screenshot on the lower right, which is Poor Dad. And when you look at this record, you say, oh my goodness, there are really, kind of a rough death or birth date, about 1890, somewhere in Ohio. Death information, it's like, yeah, pretty sure he's dead if he was born in 1890, but no real death information, no burial information. And when you look at it, name, sex, birth, death, there are no sources whatsoever. So this is what I would call a poor record. It's lacking a wealth of information. And frankly, it also doesn't engender much confidence. When you look at it, it's like, well, gee, how do I know this is real? The one above it has 9 sources of information, sources for the name, the birth date and place, death date and place, burial. So you know it's based on something. You know, somebody went out and they did some work, they did some research, and that record has some, hopefully, facts, well-documented facts behind it. And it's also got some memories, 4 memories, which means that somebody put up their photographs, so they have enough confidence to say, yeah, that my granddad or whatever, you know, here's a photo of him. And maybe there's some other information like a marriage certificate or some document they've scanned, perhaps an obituary from a newspaper clipping that they have scanned and posted. So what I would like to propose here is that we all strive to have rich forefathers and foremothers where there's a lot of information, as much as we can gather. And we've gone through it and we've tried to make it as complete, accurate, and rich as possible. That's the way to honor our ancestors. Any questions? Okay, if not, let's go ahead and move on. Is the, I've got my little, what I would call Hollywood squares from Zoom on the right. Is it obstructing my screen at all?
It is on ours.
It is, okay. Tell you what then, I'm going to do that. Better?
Well, I'm in the process of changing that.
He was trying to take the people off and now we've lost,
Oh,
now we've lost everything.
yeah.
Is the presentation showing?
Well,
We're only seeing you right now.
So while they're trying to get their vision back, so Blaine, do you have a waiting room on this call?
I just had a message come up and I just clicked it. So
Yeah, Roy Laney sent me a message. He's trying to join. Oh, maybe he's with us now.
I think so. It just popped up on my screen.
Oh, great. Okay.
Excellent. Okay.
nothing.
Let's, if there's no other comments, let's go ahead and continue with the presentation. So when we talk about, you know, rich dad and poor dad and, you know, your genealogy and getting that rich content, don't let this happen to you.
Oh. I like your slide.
Okay, so much for our you know, crazy times we live in. So moving right along, just a few words about record hints. So the genealogical websites, Ancestry.com, also Family Search and others, they have these computer algorithms which will go through and they'll look at information that you have in your record, and they will try to match it with records they have in their huge databases. And sometimes if you're, you know, not careful, I mean, these are just computer algorithms. Yes, they're clever, and they go through and they assemble these hints, but just because you have a hint, usually the hints are denoted by a little leaf icon or something, doesn't mean that they're actually facts for your ancestor. Considering the breadth of information that these web services have, if you just, you know, go by their hints are drawn out of this huge database. It's quite possible that they're pulling out people that have a very similar name. They, yes, were lived in the same or you know, close locale, and maybe their birth year and death year are, you know, quite similar to what you have in your record, but it doesn't mean that it is your ancestor. It could be somebody else who just happened to have the same name. You think Laney is unique until you really start getting into the research. And then it's like, oh my gosh, here's a Betty Jean Laney and Jane Laney, both born, one in 1931, another in 1932, both in Alabama. And yet, what I can tell, they're not related at all. And people accepting hints kind of munge these two together where they really don't belong. So it's a cautionary note. Be careful, don't blindly accept them. And sometimes we want to fill the void. So we have a rough birth date, 1932, let's say, for example, and then you come up with this hint and it says, oh, here's an exact date, April 2nd, 1932. And you say, oh boy, and you accept it right away and fill that void. You're really possibly taking a puzzle piece that doesn't fit and forcing it into the slot. So be careful. Weigh every hint with a critical eye. Ask the questions and carefully review the name, relatives, locale, age. Is it biologically possible? I've seen a lot of cases where, they have children assigned to a set of parents, and the mother, there's no way biologically she could have been having kids at that young of an age. So a genealogist always validates a hint before accepting it. So next slide. So let's have a test. Would you accept these hints? So on the left, I've got a screenshot of Ancestry, and there's a Titus Laney, born in South Carolina in 1922. Now, we all know that there are a lot of Titus Laneys out there, okay? So this is where you need to be careful. According to the Laney Clan Database on Ancestry.com, this Titus Laney died in April of 1945 in Okinawa, Japan. Now, if you recall, Okinawa in 1945 was a fairly hostile place. And so when we look at the hints here, the first hint says, well, there was a Titus Laney killed in action. And so when we look at that record, oh, okay, Titus Laney, that matches. And the dates match. 11th of July, 1922 birth date, and a death date of 27th April, 1945. Okay. And since the hint is killed in action, well, yeah, this is probably the same Titus Laney. What you'd want to do is, in the hint, click on this little photograph, and they actually have photographs in this document that they scan, and there's little biographies. And I don't have room on this slide, but if you were to actually do this, click on the little scanned document, the biography, it actually says son of, and it gives his father and mother's name. And so that's further information you can use to say, oh yeah, he's the son of William Minor Laney and Ada H. Laney. Yeah, that's the same guy. And then you accept him. Now, let's look at the one below it. Okay, this is out of the 1930 census. And you look at this hint and you say, okay, name is Tyson Laney. Oh, that doesn't match. Born 1919 as opposed to 1922 in South Carolina. That's close, but not exact. Residence, yeah, okay. There are probably a lot of Laneys living in Pageland, Chesterfield County, South Carolina in the 1930 census. And then you look at his father, Minor. Well, that could be William Minor Laney. And then you look at the mother, Susie. I don't know. Ada Helms, Susie, that's not even close. But then you look at, well, Ada Helms, when did she die? Oh, she died in 1925. So in 1930, William Minor Laney could have been remarried. And then there's a sibling listed here. So this 1930 census would really take some investigation before you could say, yep, this is the same Titus Laney. So there is just an example then of the diligence that is needed before you accept these hints. Questions, comments? How'd you guys do on the test?
So Cliff, how would you recommend people resolve the question? What should people do if they aren't sure?
Well, that's where you need to be a good investigator. And so here on Ancestry, there's a little button below the parents that says siblings, okay? And so if you click on that little siblings with the down caret, it'll list who their brothers and sisters are. And if you were to actually click on the image of the census, the 1930 census, it will show here's the head of family and his wife and the children. And so you get some data points there and you can start matching up data points. And just a cautionary note, censuses, especially in the goody old days, 1800s, where maybe people couldn't read and write, there was an enumerator that came into the household and he verbally asked them, so what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And he wrote down what he heard. And so Tyson versus Titus, yeah, it's within the realm of possibility. So you just have to go through it and really research. So look at the image and look at the record you have, okay, and as much detail as you can, and try to find those points where there's commonality that lines up. And then in the end, it's a judgment call. And if you're not sure, maybe
Pray.
Well, that could help for sure. So,
All right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, let's go on here. So this is Sherlock Holmes, the silhouette of him, because we really need to be good sleuths. And so here's a mystery. We have a snapshot, again, from the 1930 census. And in it, we have a Robert M. Laney, head of household, and we have two family members, a daughter and a son.
Genealogy Meeting.
What's that? Is there a comment? Okay, so on this census, we have Robert M., head of household, and a daughter and a son. And Robert is 70 years old, he's widowed, and he was born in Mississippi. And then the daughter's 30, not married, and the son is 26, and he's also single. So you look at this and you say, does this match with the Robert Milton Laney, who I found in the 1910 census? Is Robert M. Laney really Robert Milton Laney? And how about this daughter Ella? Is she really his daughter? So you're looking for those points of commonality and do they line up? And my point here is just looking at the 1930 census, there's no way that I can say that it absolutely lines up. For example, Robert Milton Laney, in the 1900 census, says he was 45. Well, that would mean in the 1910, he would be 55, 1920, 65. So 1930, he would be 75. But the record says 70. Ella, well, we found in the 1900 census. Oh yeah, here's an Ella. He was 10 years old in the 1900 census. So in 1910, she would have been 20. In 1920, she would have been 30. In the 1930 census, she would have been 40 years old. Uh-oh, it says it's a single female that's 30. And then you look at his, and parents that do this should be drawn and quartered. So Robert Milton Laney and his wife, Mary Emma Solomon, had a daughter named Isla, a daughter named Ella, and a daughter named Effie. Oh my goodness. You know,
A
maybe
daughter
this-
named Victoria.
of course,
Okay.
the best
Yeah.
ever. So you look at this Ella, age 30, and it's like, well, maybe that's really Effie, and the census taker misheard what the parents said when they were giving the names of the children. And then you've got this son, Lion or Leon, who's 26. Well, I know from the 1900 census that there was no son named Lion or Leon. So where did he come from? So how do you solve a mystery like this? Well, this is Sherlock Holmes. It's out his magnifying glass and starts looking for clues. What you do is you start looking for 1910 and the 1920 census and do what I call census bridging. And so you need to look at not just data points, okay, or not just 2 data points, but multiple data points. Try to figure out the commonalities. So let me just do a little change-o here. Okay, so that should have painted on your screen. So in this example, when I actually did this, okay, and yes, it was so complex, I had to resort to a spreadsheet and chunk it all into the spreadsheet. You look at the 1910 census, well, golly, here's Robert M. Lamy, Lamy. No wonder it was hard to find. And sure enough, there's a wife, Mary M. Okay, well, is that Mary Emma? Could be. All right. She was 40 in 1900. Here, she's 50 in 1910. Yeah, could be.
Right.
Yeah. And Robert M., you know, he was 45. Now it's saying he's 55. Yeah, okay. Sure. That works. And then you look at the kid. And with a little research, I found out that Isla died in 1904. Okay. So she wouldn't show in this census. And then some of these other kids, well, they had either passed away or they were old enough to be off on their own. And then here's the kids that are listed in 1910. We've got Ella and Ellie. Probably the enumerator didn't hear right. We've got a Myrtle, Pearl, Arthur. Oh, and here's a Leon. He's 8 years old. So he was born around 1902. And oh, and look, here's another one, a Leela. So a twin. So a set of twins born to the family. Well, that's very cool. And then in 1920, okay, Laney. My goodness. See, that wouldn't have come up in hint. That's too far removed. So some of these, you know, Lammy's and, you know, FM where the initials aren't even correct. You know, it's really hard. You really got to be a good sleuth to pull it out. And yet when I did this and pulled it all out, oh, Effie, she's married. 1920, she was part of another family. And so when I look at the 1930, that Ella couldn't possibly be Effie because she was off in her own household. And so you start to piece things together here. And when you do enough research and map it all out and chart it, you're like, guess what? I think that this 1930 record is for the same family. So that just shows sometimes you got to go to extreme measures and really search and look and study to figure things out. Questions?
I got an appointment. I gotta go. Talk to you later. Bye.
I love you.
Bye.
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 So some of the census takers were illiterate.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, they had terrible handwriting, that's for sure.
Or maybe they didn't have good hearing.
Yeah, or maybe it was a language thing, you know. If we're talking about Mississippi here, maybe they had pretty thick accents. I don't know. Anyway, you'll find this all over, is that people, maybe they were a little untruthful when the census taker asked them their age, you know. Perhaps they, you know, when they were a kid, they went by, you know, Leela, and later on, you know, they went by, you know, some other name, you know, Lila or whatever. Anyway, who knows? So moving on, newspapers are a great source of information. There's obituaries, there's wedding announcements and engagement announcements. If you get these smaller town papers, they even go into excruciating detail of, you know, well, you know, Mrs. Bertha Laney had visitors from Alabama over the weekend, and, you know, who they were and, you know, what they had for dinner. It's really, really great. Some tips when we talk about newspapers is when you use these as sources for information, always refer and state in that source the name of the newspaper, the place that it's published, and the date. That's because on obituaries and wedding announcements, sometimes they'll say, you know, the happy couple was married on Tuesday. And you, of course, want to put in an exact date. And so you're like, well, what was Tuesday in 1938? But if you know the paper was published on Wednesday, then you can take the publication date and say, oh, it was just a day before, and now you know the exact day they were married. Also, when we talk about newspapers, there's services. I just, in this example, it's not an endorsement, but newspapers.com is what I'm using here as an example. Actually, when you use their snipping service, it puts a copyright notice, embeds it. And then if you put that on some genealogy sites, they'll say, oh, this is copyrighted material, and they will flag it as a violation. So let's be careful. There are snipping applications. For example, on Windows, there's Snip and Sketch. On Mac, there's Shift Command 4, and you can use those to just cut out the portion of the screen that you want and then put it into an image file and then upload the image file with no copyright. So, oh, and just, yeah, tongue in cheek, you know, when researching your family, a good obituary is to die for. It's interesting, on the newspapers.com, I just put in a very broad search, Laney and obituary. And I came out with 13,788 matches. And even give some distribution. So the first one that came up was in
1856.
1856. And then you can see the little graph here, you know, crescendoed about the year 2000. And then the recent ones, it dropped off precipitously. And that would indicate what I think is that, you know, printed newspapers, it's expensive nowadays to put an obituary in a paper. And a lot of people are resorting to online obituary. Also, just a gee whiz, they put up a little heat map here. No, this is not the coronavirus hotspots. It's where the most Laney obituaries are published by state. You look at North Carolina, red hot. There are 2,312 Laney obituaries in newspapers in North Carolina. Does that mean that newspapers.com has all the obituaries that are published in North Carolina? No, not necessarily. But of the papers that they have in their service, there's a lot of Laney obituaries. And the next one is Florida with 1,262. And if this was a live page, I'd scroll down and you could see by state where those obituaries were. And then, of course, here are some of the obituaries. Like on the top here, there's this one published in the Arizona Republic, a very nice obituary for this Lynn Laney.
Cliff, that is my grandfather.
Seriously?
Oh,
Yes.
great.
Well, that's great. And
Wow.
whoever, wrote up the obituary and presented it to the newspaper for publication, did an excellent job. As a genealogist, my pet peeve is obituaries that say, so-and-so died after a long illness and they were, you name it, they were active in Rotary and they went to this church and they really loved dogs and they had a Saint Bernard named Penny, and they go through all this stuff. And then it concludes saying they'll be sorely missed. And it's like, who were their parents? When were they born? Any brothers and sisters, were they predeceased by anybody? Who's still alive to, miss them? Anyway, so yeah, this Lynn Laney obituary is a really good one.
Cliff, this is Tom. For some reason, I have a copy of that original copy from a newspaper. I don't know where I got it, but I used to travel, and I might have got it from the Phoenix newspaper.
You
But
might have. And those are treasures. Those are real
Yeah.
treasures.
yeah,
We'll talk
our
about
daughter,
it in just a minute.
our daughter's named Lynn, and so it's with an E though at the end. So it was kind of a shock when I first saw it.
And
Well,
that's Steve.
this is great.
Yeah.
This makes it relevant.
Published 4 obituaries after Mother died.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, some of them were feature articles. We didn't have to pay for them. I didn't pay for any of them. But we wanted to get the word out. So we had Washington, D.C., 2 in Florida, and St. George, Utah.
Mhm.
It was good.
Yeah. And so Victoria is absolutely right. If you pay your cards right, or you can tie it into something that's relevant for the newspaper, maybe you can get it for free because it'll be a featured obituary. So what do you do about this place here where, okay, the obituaries that newspapers.com has, they kind of peaked in 2000 and then now they're dropping off. How do you find those obituaries? Well, Google it. It's interesting. So with online obituaries, so for example, on the left here, I just Googled Elizabeth Laney obituary. And I got all these hits. Here's an Elizabeth Ann, who was 77 years old. Here's another one for an Elizabeth Laney. Here's another one in Mississippi. So we have Lewiston, we have Ohio, Mississippi. Here's an Elizabeth Jane. Here's Elizabeth Laney Long. Here's, anyway, you have all these obituaries that pop up, and it's really nice because you can go in with just a single click and it lists it. And then like on the right here, this Elizabeth Beth Laney, you can click on read more and it'll bring it up. So don't forget about these obituaries that are just, posted online.
I have Googled just Laney obituaries and you come up with tons of them. And I try to fill in some of my blanks in my family tree. So
Excellent.
anyway, I was wondering if you Googled, and I
Okay.
see that you do.
Yep. And sometimes if you want to, if you get a lot of Elizabeth Laneys, maybe then you put in a place after obituary, or maybe you put in a death year and it'll narrow it down. There's all kinds of things that you can do.
So Cliff,
Okay. Yeah.
Cliff, this is Dorothy.
Hey, Dorothy.
Yeah, hi. I joined late because I've got Thanksgiving stuff going on today. Anyway, are you going to make these your little slideshow available?
Absolutely. So
Good.
I sent a copy of the PDF to both Linda and Blaine.
Okay.
And then anybody else that wants it, go ahead. At the end, my email address is there. It's laneysearch@yahoo.com. Just shoot me an email and I will send you this presentation. And, you know, gosh, I'm fairly generous. I'll send you just about everything I have.
And we can put a link to it in the newsletter too, if you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk about that box full of memories that we all have. You know, it's the photographs that are dear and precious. Maybe it'll be some documents. Maybe it's, you know, written family histories. You know, we all have those boxes. And so what I'd like to do is suggest that you go through your closets and locate those. And take those photographs and document and gently with a pencil write on the back so you don't emboss the photograph. But gently write on the back who's in that photo and what they were doing, where it was taken, when it was taken. One of the saddest things in my recollection is that I went to my mom, I visited her, and we started going through photos, and some of them she couldn't remember who was in the photograph or when it was taken. She knew, you know, this is precious, this is a cousin or somebody, but you know, the recollection had faded of exactly who it was. So don't let that happen. Go through them and write on the back gently in pencil so that when anybody looks at that photo, if they flip it over, that information is there. Then decide which to share, who you want to share them with, and how. For example, my parents had some letters that they wrote back and forth between each other. And some of those letters were very, very personal. And there's no way I want to put those up and post them on Family Search or Ancestry, but they were precious and pertinent, relevant to my brothers and sisters. So I scanned them and I gave them to my brothers and sisters, and they can pass them down to their kids. And just a word when we talk about digitizing or scanning photos and documents, these days it's easy. If you want to just use your phone, just Google, you know, how to scan documents using your iPhone or your Android phone, and it'll come up with complete instructions on how to do that. Or if you want to actually go and buy a printer scanner, you know, my little printer costs $99, Costco, and it has a scanner right into it with a document feeder. Or if you really want to go professional, you can get flatbed scanners that plug right into your computer for $99 and up that do an excellent job scanning photographs and documents. And then just a little takeaway here. Everyone has a box full of memories, a treasure to periodically be unearthed and used to rediscover the mosaic of our lives and the lives of loved ones. More importantly, that box should be shared, talked about, and those memories relived. The tears of joy and sadness will evoke our stitches on the fabric of a life worth celebrating. So get them out of the closet, folks. Dust them off, right on the back, and share them. So,
Cliff.
yes.
Cliff, yeah, I got into the boxes, the ones we moved here to McKinney a year ago, and I have more stuff that I don't know what to do with. More pictures, snapshots mostly, but lots of stuff. And I'm paring it down as much as I can and getting rid of the pictures that I don't know who they are.
Mhm.
But also in the process, I found out that Marcus H. Laney, my father, who y'all have written extensively about and probably tired of hearing his story, but I found a diary that he kept for 10 years, a day-by-day diary. And it doesn't have a lot of information, but I'm condensing it down to kind of a story. And this is mainly for my grandchildren because they didn't know their grandparents. They were too old. Our kids were in their elementary school or younger when my parents were living quite a ways away, and they weren't able to visit. And they don't know their grandparents. So this is for them, but I'll also share it with the Laney clan when I get it written. And it's
Excellent.
going to be over 100 pages.
Oh,
That is fantastic.
tell him what he wrote about.
Well, I mainly wrote about the weather and the cows and the horses and the pigs and what they look like, what the prices were, and mundane things. Very rarely did he get into anything of very personal nature, except they did have a child died and that died at birth, and there was a long page of his remembrance on his diary. But the other piece of things, literature that I ran across was a diary or an autobiography. His autobiography that he just sat down and hand wrote.
Nice.
And that is very revealing, was very revealing to me. Some of it I didn't know. And I'll share that as well, although it's not a perfect piece of work, and it tells some things about our family that you probably don't know, but I will share that work with you.
One of these days.
Well, it'll be next year at least.
Okay. Oh, that's wonderful. And it's great when people actually write their own family histories. And you mentioned Marcus. So the Laney Clan database that we have really owes a debt of gratitude to those Laneys that did tons of research, wrote letters, and collected information from different Laneys and assembled it. All that work that Marcus Laney did, and Clarence Laney, and Larry Laney, as well as, of course, Dr. Guy Funderburk and other Laneys, it's all accumulated in the Laney Clan database. So thank you.
It's in there.
Thank you for all your forebears that did that work.
Okay, great. Good. Glad to hear it.
And then just another comment on boxes full of memories. So this summer, we in Oregon, we had wildfires. Had wildfires in California too, but we had one where it came within a half mile of our house. We were evacuated. We had notice in the morning that said there is a fire and you are to prepare to evacuate. And then a couple of hours later, we had a sheriff's deputy stop by and said, get out now. And we left. So we had 2 hours to decide what in our house was precious and irreplaceable, and gather it up and put it in the car so that we could drive it out of here. And so it was a comfort to me. There were bunches of photographs and documents I had already scanned over the years and posted on Ancestry, Family Search, or given copies of to my siblings that I didn't have to worry about. And then there were a lot of other documents, and this is the big wake-up call, is that, oh my goodness, these aren't scanned yet. I need to do that. Well, I couldn't do it that day, but I sure put them in the car, kept them safe. And so this is just a word of warning is, who knows where disasters will befall us, you know. When you go to your closet and look for those, you know, treat them like they're precious, you know. Is your house going to burn down tomorrow? God forbid. But it's possible, you know. Is some looter or, you know, somebody going to go through, or is you know, and pick things? Is your bathroom upstairs going to spring a leak and everything below is water damage, or, you know, whatever it is? You know, maybe, you know, the documents, mouse gets in there and chews them up, or maybe they fade with the sun, and so what used to be a beautiful period photograph is hardly recognizable anymore. Once you digitize these photographs and documents, they are preserved and they are so easy to share with others. So enough said.
Yeah, thanks.
Was your home spared from the fires?
It was. We were extremely blessed. It came within a half mile. It could have just with wind come across the ridge and totally wiped us and our neighbors out. And thankfully our prayers were answered and the wind died down and the firefighters were able to get it under control.
Hmm.
Thank you for asking.
Praise God.
Yeah.
So we have arrived at the call to action. So at this point, this is where I put out my plea. Go to Laney Clan Database and update your ancestors' record. Add the sources, explore the hints, be a good detective, and look at the hints and other records, and any that apply, any that match up, link them. And if there's errors, correct them. And then I'm also requesting that you do the same on Family Search. Since Family Search, anybody on planet Earth can have a subscription without cost. There's a lot of eyeballs looking at that. There's also a lot of people contributing to that global family tree. And so if you update your records there, potentially you'll get feedback that you wouldn't get with the Laney Clan USA database. And then thirdly, add that rich content. Go through the boxes of photos, scan them, upload those that are appropriate for a public audience. And if they're just appropriate for immediate family, you know, make sure that immediate family has digital copies. Well, at this point, let me say thank you for attending and open it up to any comments or questions that you may have remaining.
Cliff, I'd just like to say, as far as photographs, to add what it is, I had a cousin that sent me photographs of 3 different generations of his family.
Mm-hmm.
And what was recorded on the databases showed that on the line, for example, his father came from, that there was only 1 child, and there was in fact 7 others. So with these photographs, different time periods that were listed who they were, we're able to piece together 3 generations of his family.
Wow.
Based
3
upon the
generations.
photographs, and I think, and then he had some stuff like related to a record in a family Bible of a child that was missing, that was born just before the father died in a battle in the Civil War. So just kind of records, because what was on was totally incomplete. And based upon photographs that were labeled 3 generations of a family. And the other thing I would say, part of what helped with that for his aunts and uncles was the World War II enlistment records, which are actually excellent sources that do list parents, do list key information that was very, very, you know, helpful in that. So.
Great comment. Thanks, Blaine.
So Cliff, I also wanted to mention, if anyone on the call doesn't have access to the Laney Clan database, please let me know. I'd be happy to add you. We really do want you to have access to the records, and we want to help you do updates for your family. So please let me know.
Okay. That's Linda Sanders, and she sent out the invite, so you can just reply to the email.
Right, and then we do have the Laney Clan reunion. I guess we're being hopeful is actually set for next July in Indiana, Pennsylvania, back where it all started. And so that is something for people to be aware of. So we have hotels set, we have things reserved. And so that is something, and I guess we're hopeful that vaccines and everything will work and we'll all be able to go there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So more information on the reunion will be coming out in the newsletter in the next week or two. And I'll also try to post on our Facebook page the details. But if you have questions, please let me know. This is Linda again.
Thanks, Linda.
Finale will be my birthday.
Woohoo.
Oh, and we will celebrate July birthdays.
Exactly. Dorothy's birthday as well.
That's true.
Nice.
Well, we will guarantee cake and ice cream at some point. So,
Wow.
70 candles.
Whoa.
well, we don't want to create a fire, so we might have a 7 and a 0. How's that?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Was Indiana County, Pennsylvania, the area where Titus lived?
Well, actually, there's two different places. So a place to where descendants of Titus, that I guess they're the largest group of the Titus and Joseph families. There was 9 that fought under Washington and were at Braddock's defeat. All got land grants. The largest group of people went to the Carolinas with Daniel Boone, Titus and Joseph and their descendants because they got land grants in the Carolinas. Now, of Titus descendants, there was another line that actually got a land grant that's near Indiana, Pennsylvania, which was on Shawnee Creek Cabin on some Indian land, which was a 2 square mile piece of property, of which in the late 1700s, early 1800s, a sawmill was there that employed 200 people. And so that's a place. So it's about, so this Indiana, Pennsylvania is about a half hour from the place to where other Laneys settled that lived next to Daniel Boone. But this particular one is the Laneys that never left Pennsylvania. They didn't go to the Carolinas. And so that's, but when they came on the boats from Ireland and landed in Philadelphia, they settled in the William Penn colony because it was religious tolerant. They didn't want to go to Maryland because that was a Catholic colony, and they were leaving Ireland because they were being killed or persecuted and marriages not recognized. So,
Another question. Anne Marie Laney, a daughter of Titus, I guess that's her name, Anna Maria or Anne Marie. She married a John Stein, I think, and they lived in Pennsylvania. Does anyone know what area of Pennsylvania they lived?
we could probably figure that out because we actually have Butch Laney that lives right in this county, and then there's a Sharon Laney. And you know, if you send those to Cliff, we can probably, because we've gotten reams of information from the Laneys that are in that area that never left. And they've actually even restored, Butch Laney has helped restore one of the old trading posts that existed, you know, a couple hundred years ago. And he said a number of the Laneys in that area have Indian blood because they intermarried with 3 different Indian tribes. And his comment was those that intermarried with the Indians are a little bit more unruly than the rest of us. So if you send that to Cliff, we definitely have received a lot of information that maybe can answer your question. So,
Yeah. So
I'm
go
sure
ahead
a
and
lot
shoot
of-
me an email at laneysearch@yahoo.com.
but these are the ones that lived there and settled in that area were on the Titus side. That is, the ones that never left. Although I can tell you, at least from my 7th grade grandfather, that would be Cliff's, John Laney, went back and forth from the Carolinas to Pennsylvania repeatedly to be able to visit his family and cousins that didn't go south. So
I think we do have Laney's in Lancaster County, and I've been told I don't pronounce it correctly. It's Lancaster County.
Lancaster.
I guess we
Yeah.
will
Lancaster.
go and become educated on, just like, I guess, so we'll learn more how to say it. I'm not sure exactly either, so.
Again, I thought it was Lancaster County where Titus had lived. I
Well,
wasn't.
they did, they originally,
Mhm.
so
Right.
this Indiana and Pennsylvania is about a half hour away from the Lancaster area. And there was actually, in that area, there was a county Tyrone that was the same name as they had a county Tyrone. It was Tyrone Donimore in Northern Ireland. So a lot of the towns that they had, they renamed for names that were from their homeland.
So I
So
have,
we'll be close. Go ahead.
I have Laney Lineage and Legacy open here. Anna Maria Laney was the oldest daughter of Titus. And it does say she married to John Stein in a Dutch Reformed church in Pennsylvania. And it also says that Titus's first 2 children were probably born in Ireland, but the next 4 were born in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and the last 4 in Frederick County, Virginia. It says Anna Maria may have remained with her family in Pennsylvania. Samuel settled in Frederick County, Virginia, and I believe Samuel is the one that Butch Laney
I believe
descends
so.
from.
2 of Titus's sons did not go south.
Yeah, Samuel and
Besides
Anna Maria.
Samuel, there was one other.
Well, it says all the other known children came on to South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, it'll be interesting to read a little more about that before the reunion. So
Right.
maybe in our spring edition of the Laney Clan newsletter, we can do a little write-up about that.
Well,
Can I make a comment?
Sure, Roy.
Recently, I got really bored and I didn't have anything to do. Okay, this doesn't deal with politics, but I said, hey, I'm going to go to familysearch.org and search for information on the Biden family as well as the Trump family. Do you know what Trump's father's middle name is?
do not know.
Do you know what his grandmother's maiden name was?
No.
Okay, I was able to find it because of Donald Trump's brother, Robert Stewart Trump, who died, I think, in August of 2020. So at Family Search, you can click on the personal information or you can click on the family tree and see the whole tree. And I went back to about 1100 AD. His father's middle name was Christ, Christ. His grandmother's maiden name was Christ, Christ. His 10th or 11th great grandfather was Christian Christ. I just thought that was odd.
That is definitely.
I
different.
guess
It really wasn't as boring as I thought it was going to be.
I guess the challenge for all of us is to honor our names, I guess.
But even in the 1940 census, I'm waiting for 2025 when they release the 1950 so that I can show up. But in the 1940 census, one of my sister's names was misspelled. So obviously that was in Alabama. So I guess, you know, there were a lot of illiterate people even taking the census.
Well, I guess that's why you need to be a super sleuth like Cliff. And then you can sort out all of those things. So.
Right.
Thank you for the compliment. Well, this has been a wonderful meeting. And I wish all of you to be safe. I look forward to seeing you vaccinated and at the Laney Clan reunion this coming summer.
Okay, and thank you for your cartoon alliterations. They were marvelous. So
Thanks,
You're
Cliff.
welcome.
Everything was great. You did a super job.
Thank you.
We're so impressed.
that's
Yeah, good to see
Now-
you, Linda.
Definitely. Great to see you too.
I'm sure there's people who missed it who'll be so glad to be able to watch it later.
Oh, yes.
And now I guess we need to respond to the call to action. So,
That's right. Thank you, Cliff. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Cliff.
thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.